I go back a long way with these guys. So you'd think it'd be, been there, done that, but no way. They're absolutely too much fun. Come on, let's go. Is a porpoise a dolphin? Is a dolphin a whale? And is a whale a fish or a mammal? Ever imagine what it's like to see a killer whale from your kayak off the coast of Alaska? Or have you ever actually watched a killer whale give birth? Well, get ready to experience it all, because it's coming right up on the Whale and Dolphin Story. Probably no other creature has captured our fascination as much as the whale. What is it about these animals that keeps us so intrigued? Hi, I'm Julie Scardina, SeaWorld and Busch Gardens Animal Ambassador. And for over 20 years, I've had the great fortune of working with whales and dolphins in a variety of amazing ways. From performing fun and educational shows at SeaWorld with Dolly the dolphin, and feeling the power and agility of Shamu the killer whale, both above and below the water, to introducing kids to the touch of beluga whales, or seeing humpback whales feeding in the wild. It's been an exciting, incredible career for me. And after all these years, I'm still learning. In fact, we're all still learning about these intriguing creatures. And the more we learn, the better we'll be at helping to protect them. So get ready to learn some new stuff yourself, because this is the Whale and Dolphin Story. Many scientists believe that early whales arose 55 to 60 million years ago. Some species of whale hold the record for being among the largest animals on the planet, and they are found in virtually every ocean of the world. There are 80 or so species of whales and dolphins that belong to the mammalian order Cetacea. This order is further divided into two suborders, toothed whales and baleen whales. And there are several differences between toothed whales and baleen whales. All toothed whales have teeth, of course, which are mainly used to grasp prey when they feed. The number of teeth ranges from as few as 2 to as many as 200. Toothed whales are generally smaller than most baleen whales, ranging in size from about 4 feet to over 60 feet. And they tend to be social in nature, and they have a single blowhole. Baleen whales, on the other hand, have 2 blowholes and are generally more solitary animals by nature. And instead of teeth, like those, they have bristly plates of baleen, like these. These plates hang down along each side of their upper jaw and resemble a mustache when the whale's mouth is open. Baleen is used as a strainer to filter large quantities of food, such as krill, plankton, and small schooling fishes. Baleen whales range in size from an average of 20 to 85 feet. For the most part, whales have very developed senses, with excellent sight, acute hearing, and a well-developed sense of touch. However, there's little evidence that whales have any sense of smell. Toothed whales have an amazing capability beyond the typical senses. They have the ability to echolocate. They can actually send out high-frequency clicks and are able to receive and interpret the echoes. This can help determine the size, shape, and distance of objects in the water. Dr. Sam Ridgway, senior scientist of the Navy Marine Mammal Program and an adjunct professor at the UCSD School of Medicine, has studied dolphins and echolocation extensively. So, Dr. Ridgway, I see you brought your brains with you today.
Yes, yes. This is the female killer whale brain. It's the largest female brain on the planet. This is the bottlenose dolphin. A bottlenose dolphin has a brain about the same size as ours. We think that the large size of the dolphin brain and this large cerebellum has something to do with their echolocation capability and for storing information about the acoustic environment.
Now, most animals don't have the ability to echolocate, so why is that so important for a dolphin?
For echolocation, a dolphin with his nasal system puts out a click like that, only very fast. And those echoes come back and the animal needs very precise timing to look at the range to the target and angle that he has to swim to get to the target.
Most baleen whales migrate, moving from polar feeding areas to tropical calving areas. Some, but not all species of toothed whales migrate. Other species, such as bottlenose dolphins, may stay within a limited home range, and others may move seasonally in response to water temperature and food availability. One whale behavior which continues to baffle people, even scientists, is stranding. In general, a whale strands if it has a serious illness or injury, or if it's too weak to hunt or swim. And some scientists have theorized that healthy whales may strand when they get off course, if their ability to follow geomagnetic contours of the Earth fails, or in toothed whales, if their echolocation ability becomes impaired. SeaWorld and other organizations participate in whale, dolphin, and other marine animal rescues. And even when these rescues aren't successful, scientists still can gather valuable information. For centuries, people in coastal communities have relied on various whale species for subsistence. In the 1800s, whaling became big business, and whale populations were brought to the brink of extinction. Today, whaling is monitored, and hunting still occurs. But other factors besides hunting are impacting whale populations as well, like overfishing by humans, pollution, and human water activities. Our fascination with whales just keeps growing, and so does our knowledge. Early on, SeaWorld brought the whale and dolphin experience to a general public who knew very little about these incredible mammals. Today, people want to get closer than ever before, and that carries with it a huge responsibility. Have you ever wondered how we keep tabs on the health of the animals? Well, daily observation and a close trainer-animal relationship is key. Medically, we keep up the animal's health by performing routine physical exams and taking blood samples and urine samples. We're able to do that because of a trained husbandry behavior program. All the animals in our care are reinforced for participation in their own health care. The first step at any type of animal training is to build trusting relationships between the animals and the trainers. And then as we work with the animals every day, trainers can shape certain behaviors, such as a whale holding its fluke out of the water. That also can provide opportunities for them to thoroughly examine the animal. By setting up a positive environment with a variety of reinforcements and creating a positive experience where there are no unpleasant surprises, the animal responds willingly. Once an animal is relaxed and confident with the basics, then these same behaviors can be modified for a more in-depth examination by a veterinarian or for a procedure such as drawing blood from the whale's fluke. Ultimately, the animals are taught to do a variety of behaviors on signal, such as exhaling or giving a urine sample on cue, or doing something they may not normally do, like holding still in one position for x-rays or sonograms. Using this same approach, we can even examine the whale's teeth and perform dental work if needed. Being able to do physical exams, perform routine care, and collect blood and other samples on a regular basis without having to use restraint is a huge plus for us and the animals. By gathering information regularly, we can establish healthy baseline data for each animal, and then we can use the baseline data to more easily diagnose and treat illnesses, because then we know what normal is. We can share this information with other professionals involved in caring for the same species. And we can also use this information to understand more about similar species that we might not have such good access to. One area of research that has really benefited by our increased knowledge of animal health parameters is reproductive physiology. And SeaWorld's whale and dolphin breeding programs are some of the zoological world's most successful. Throughout SeaWorld's history, we've built successful breeding programs with a number of species, such as bottlenose dolphins, commersons, and white-sided dolphins, as well as pseudorcas, belugas, and of course, killer whales. In fact, we've had 19 killer whale calves born and thrive at the park so far. Of course, every birth is exciting, and we've also learned a huge amount about killer whale reproduction and calf growth that we wouldn't have been able to learn from studying killer whales in the wild. For example, we've learned that female killer whales can become sexually mature as young as 6 or 7 years old, that the length of gestation or pregnancy in killer whales is about 17 months, and that calves grow very rapidly from their birth weight of 350 pounds, plus a lot of other important scientific information. Good research usually takes time, and the key is perseverance. One of our latest research successes took 12 years of hard work, but it was well worth the wait for the final results, which was the birth of the world's first killer whale conceived through artificial insemination. SeaWorld veterinarian Dr. Todd Robeck headed up this fascinating project.
So Dr. Robeck, what did it take to actually get to the point where we had our first successful birth through artificial insemination?
We spent a lot of years looking at reproductive hormones in the females. We spent a lot of time training the males to get semen, to evaluate it, how we could hold it, can we freeze it, can we store it, can we ship it. There's a lot of different aspects of both male and female reproduction that you have to understand before you can even try AI. So we spent probably 10, 11, 12 years or more doing research, and got to the point where we felt like we knew about as much as we were going to know until we actually tried it. And they said, let's just try it and see how it goes.
And all these whales have been trained on husbandry procedures, obviously have great relationships with their trainers to get through this procedure and to the point where you could actually inseminate them.
That made the whole thing possible.
How much of that knowledge, how many of those techniques can actually be transferred from species to species? Can you just take that information and say, okay, now we're going to do it with the beluga whales?
Sometimes yes, sometimes no. With beluga whales, the answer seems to be no. We're using techniques as far as the training, but the science is not the same. They're very different animals. They're from a different family, and their reproductive biology is appearing to be incredibly different, and AI is not going to be easy or similar to killer whale. It's going to take some time, and we're trying to struggle through learning about these animals to get to a point where we can try AI.
We've already had a successful natural breeding program, so what is the significance of having artificial insemination techniques be successful?
Fortunately, we have a group of animals that breed quite well. We know what natural breeding is, and from that we can take that information and then take the next step and learn about artificial insemination. And if these animals do come to a point of being critically endangered, then we have the information already in hand where maybe we can do something about saving a few select animals.
Research is an important part of conservation work, and sometimes it can mean the difference between the survival or extinction of a species. One aspect of cetacean behavior that we're still trying to understand are their vocalizations. Dr. Ann Bowles is a scientist with the Hub's SeaWorld Research Institute, and she spent the last 15 years studying killer whale vocalizations.
Killer whales are wonderful because they have what we call a stereotyped vocal repertoire. It's a whole bunch of calls that seem to be typical of particular groups of whales. And what we're trying to understand is how that system works, how it develops, who in the pool determines what calls get used, and so on.
In addition, Dr. Bowles' research has shown that calves learn the vocalizations of their group as they develop. Dr. Bowles has learned that individual whales can be identified by their calls, and she has even been able to identify separate social group dialects. We're hoping that this method of identification may ultimately help us to identify separate pods of whales during population counts in the wild. Even with all the research being done, there's still lots to be learned about whales and dolphins. One thing's for sure, though, the more we learn about the animals here, the smarter we can work to protect those in the wild. Fortunate in my professional life to be able to work with the ocean's top predator. The killer whale has been truly amazing. Add to that the experiences I've had in the field, and it's a career I could have only dreamed of. One trip that ranks at the top of my list was Alaska, when a few other SeaWorld trainers and myself got to experience whales from a different perspective. Isn't that right? Yeah! It's incredible to work with killer whales at SeaWorld. Their intelligence, their power, it's awesome. So when our corporate vice president of animal training, Thad Lasinik, and I traveled to Glacier Bay, Alaska, it was absolutely inspiring.
So Thad, you remember the Alaska trip? That was
absolutely
amazing, wasn't it?
Oh, it was just phenomenal. I'll never forget that trip as long as I live. I mean, it was just so neat to be out there in the wild with them and seeing everything from that perspective, even though you get fleeting glimpses of it.
It's like here, everything is, you know, we pamper these whales so much,
Oh,
and yet out
absolutely.
there you can see that they're, you know, they're working hard to survive.
I think that is the big difference. I mean, they've got a lot of obstacles out there. Look at the care these animals get, and then you look at what those animals go through just to find their food every day.
We saw the tactics, the stealth that those guys had.
And they were going along like
Yeah,
nobody's business.
yeah.
It didn't look like they were hunting, but they took the opportunity right then. I think that's one of the things that stands out. You know, it just reaffirmed in my mind what we do. Because here, you get to see all the killer whales. You get to see them underwater, you get to see them above the water. There, it's a fleeting glimpse. Although it was very cool, you have to be lucky enough to come upon it.
That was so incredible where you ended up when you were taking the kayak out.
Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how exhilarating that was. It was a little scary though, too. You know, I'm sitting there in the kayak and all of a sudden I've got like 20 killer whales around me. They were going underneath me. The water's so clear up there, you know, I'd look down and I'd see them right there next to me looking at me. Big eye go by. And then I was a little worried. Yeah, I was a little worried. But it was just absolutely incredible to see how these animals react in the wild and how they take care of their young, which mirrors exactly what we're seeing here at SeaWorld. So it's just awesome.
That was a fantastic experience. You know the other thing I remember from that trip the most? When the humpbacks were feeding.
Oh, that was awesome. That was scary, too.
You really don't realize how large the mouth is on those animals until you're close enough to really experience the fact that the bubble ring is pretty large in itself.
Yeah.
And then the mouth almost, you know, it encompasses the entire thing.
Well,
how much food are they taking in?
Exactly. That's what I was getting, and how the ocean has to support that.
Yeah.
You know, an animal like that and what they eat. I mean, one scoop of his mouth, he was taking in hundreds and hundreds of pounds, if not thousands of pounds of fish.
And the whole tie-in with seeing that out in the wild and then knowing that because of technology, man has been able to surpass anything that any animal has been able to do out in the wild, in the oceans, and that we've actually overfished some of these stocks, and that affects those populations, doesn't it?
Oh, it's already affected them, and there's all kinds of studies going on right now. I mean, in fact, it's affected them so much that now killer whale populations may be affecting the stellar sea lion population
And
because
the sea otter, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Because they're not going after salmon because the salmon population is down. They're going after other mammals now, which they didn't used to do as much.
Yeah, and even the stellar sea lions can't find enough food.
That's right.
It really shows you how it's all interconnected.
Absolutely. And we're the only ones that can affect the change.
We are all connected, and like Thad said, we are the ones who can make a difference. Oh, and one quick word of advice. If you're ever headed out on your own field trip, don't forget your video camera. Playback can be a researcher's best friend, because sometimes you're so busy looking ahead of you, you miss what's right behind you.
Rescuing a whale or dolphin is no easy task. It takes a lot of people and an enormous effort to care for and transport an animal this size. SeaWorld is dedicated to rescue and rehab and has developed the skills, tools, staff, and facilities to help ill or injured cetaceans. And with that in mind, let's take a closer look at cetacean conservation and what you can do to help.
Since 1965, SeaWorld has been involved in over 350 stranded cetacean rescues. Each one is unique in their causes, in their rescue needs, and their rehabilitation requirements. There are many reasons an animal may need help. Among the most common are disease, entanglement, ingestion of non-food items, injuries, getting off course due to weather changes or separation from its mother or group, toxins, both natural and man-made, and mass strandings. Whenever possible, the rescued animals are returned to the sea, often with tracking equipment attached, which can provide a lot of valuable information. A common dolphin was rescued after stranding on a small stretch of coastline in Southern California.
Buster, as he came to be known, was very ill and required extensive rehabilitation. When Buster was first brought to SeaWorld, he wasn't even able to swim. Animal caretakers and SeaWorld veterinarians worked around the clock, providing Buster with nourishment and care. Over the next several months, Buster grew stronger and more healthy. But even now that he's better, the chances of him surviving on his own are low. So Buster has a permanent home at SeaWorld, and today he plays an important role as a dolphin ambassador, helping to spread a meaningful conservation message to all who come in contact with him through the Dolphin Interaction Program. One of the most famous whale ambassadors in the history of SeaWorld, and one that I'm very familiar with, arrived in January of 1997. Severely dehydrated and nearly comatose, JJ the gray whale was only a few days old when she stranded near Marina del Rey, California. Fortunately, she was rescued and brought to SeaWorld, although the prognosis seemed bleak. She was so weak that animal care team members had to literally hold her upright in the water and swim her around the medical pool. I was there in the pool with her when Dr. Jim McBain reported the grim reality of JJ's condition.
The prognosis for full recovery is no better than poor at this point.
The constant dedication of the SeaWorld staff helped JJ beat the odds. She was put on a specially formulated diet made up of a mixture of heavy cream, minced fish, and vitamins. She was hand-fed the formula at first and gained weight at an astounding rate. During her rehab at SeaWorld, JJ had to learn gray whale behaviors in order to prepare her to return to the ocean. She learned to eat fish and krill, and in the hopes that she would understand gray whale communications, whale vocalizations were piped into her pool. As JJ grew, so did public interest. This was a rare opportunity for many people to get amazingly close to a gray whale. After 13 months of constant care and tons of fish and krill, it was time for JJ to be released. She had grown from 1,500 pounds to 17,000 pounds in just over a year, so preparing for her return to the open ocean was no small feat. Lifts, trucks, equipment, tracking gear, and an entire strategy had to be designed in order to successfully transport JJ back to the sea. She was released as the gray whales were making their way north to the colder Arctic waters. But after only a few days, she scraped off her tracking devices, so there was no way to follow her. Hopefully, after learning their sounds and being taught to eat and thriving so well at the park, she connected with those other whales and has been making the annual migration with them ever since. The story of JJ goes down in the history books as one of the most incredible rescues, rehabilitations, and releases to date. But, like I said, every rescue is unique, and whether it's a gray whale, a dolphin, or a bird, we think they're all important.
Being able to touch a dolphin is pretty incredible. And interaction programs at SeaWorld and Discovery Cove provide this awesome opportunity, guided by the trainers to keep it safe and fun. In the wild, respecting an animal's space and keeping your distance from them keeps both you and them safe. So with that in mind, let's take a closer look at cetacean conservation and what you can do to help. Hi, guys.
While most of the 80 or so known species of dolphins and whales are not currently endangered or threatened, some are. Like the southern right whale. It's more important than ever to take care of our marine animals and their habitats in order to keep them healthy and here for generations to come. Even if you don't live near an ocean or a sea, there's plenty you can do from wherever you are. The most important first step in conservation is awareness. Zoological parks and aquariums play a major role in learning about whales and dolphins, and in turn, educating the public. So first, let's take a quick look at their habitat, the ocean. Once thought to be limitless in their resources, the world's oceans are increasingly in jeopardy, from marshes and mangroves to coral reefs and the bottom depths. Marine systems provide an estimated $21 trillion in goods and services, 70% more than terrestrial systems, so demand for the ocean's riches is depleting its resources. Coral reefs are beautiful to look at, but they also play an important habitat role as they offer refuge for a quarter of all marine species. Coral reefs are one of the first systems to show distress within the marine ecosystem, and they're disappearing at an astounding rate. It's estimated that 70% of the world's coral reefs will disappear within your lifetime if the current rate of destruction continues. So, exactly what's destroying our reefs? Overfishing and destructive fishing techniques, unregulated tourism, rising ocean temperatures, coastal development, pollution, and disease. Many concerned individuals and organizations are working hard to safeguard our oceans and reefs. And they suggest lots of ways that you can help preserve the ocean and its reefs too. Use the look but don't touch approach when scuba diving or snorkeling. Be careful not to anchor your boat on coral. Avoid collecting shells or disturbing other marine creatures. Take all your trash back to shore for disposal. And at home, use caution with pesticides and fertilizers. And volunteer for beach cleanups if you live near the ocean. In general, be aware that whatever we do on land impacts the sea. Here's something you may not have thought much about. The fish you eat may already be endangered. Marine biologist Mark Drawbridge knows that the fish we eat and the way we catch them can really make a difference.
What's going on out there is that over the last 20 to 30 years or so, the technology's gotten extremely efficient as far as the fishing gear, boats, vessels, GPS navigation, those types of things that have just made it so much easier to catch large quantities of fish.
I know that even when it's just individual fisheries that are affected, it actually, of course, is going to affect the entire ecosystem. What are some of the things that we see that are the result of fisheries collapsing?
There's a lot of effort being put into finding ways to catch, to the extent that you can, exactly what you're targeting and not get these other miscellaneous species. Our approach here is kind of two-pronged. What we're looking at doing is raising fish in a hatchery environment and then releasing them back out in the wild to be caught by either recreational or commercial fishermen or just to be enjoyed by scuba divers. So that's one approach. And then the other approach that we're looking at is more of a direct approach. You can see in the background here fish pens where we could raise the fish to an edible size and market those directly.
Ah, okay. So you're raising these basically to go straight to market then?
If we can produce some of these high value and important species directly for the consumer, it will take pressure off the wild fisheries.
So what are some of the things that you and I and the general public can do to really help the situation just from home?
It's really up to the consumer to go out there and talk to the right people and get as much information as they can so that they can make an intelligent decision.
When dining, there are better seafood selections, but this may change seasonally, regionally, or from year to year. Being on seafood alert is one way you can make informed choices. Every day, we learn more about whales and dolphins and how to protect these species. Through continued research, data collection, successful breeding programs, rescue and rehabilitation efforts, interactive and educational programs that increase awareness, and conservation at all levels, each one of us can do our part to preserve cetaceans, their habitats, and our planet. I'm Julie Scardina. Thanks for caring about the whale and dolphin story.
Hi, I'm Jenny Bush, Conservation Ambassador for the Anheuser-Busch Adventure Parks. SeaWorld, Busch Gardens, and Discovery Cove are dedicated to the conservation and preservation of wildlife, and we believe the stories like the one you just experienced need to be told. The whales and dolphins featured in this program are just a few of the many species that benefit from the SeaWorld and Busch Gardens Conservation Fund, a nonprofit charitable organization dedicated to animal rescue, wildlife research, habitat protection, and conservation education. Your support through the continued viewing of programs like this is appreciated. I encourage you to learn all you can about animals and their environment. Remember, we're all interconnected. What happens to them eventually happens to us. So we need to protect them and their habitats. Together, we can make a difference.